Welcome back to the Lockdown on pushthebutton.ie and on the lockdown.ie. My next guest is used to being the other side of the camera because he's a photographer, and the way he takes pictures is absolutely incredible. Also, we're going to learn how you can take the perfect selfie. Let's chat to John Murray. John, how are you, buddy?
Super, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thanks very much. Now, I know that you're busy, so this is precious time for you, isn't it?
Look, it's, do for the good of the village, everybody benefits, so I don't mind spending a little bit of time having a chat.
So let's cast our minds back to when we first met. You contacted me, I think it was either on Twitter or Facebook.
It wasn't actually. The first time we met was with Dave Moore. Dave brought me into 98 FM and you were in the studio.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. You were sitting there, there you go. I'm just disgusted at how you didn't remember that. That's awful. The first time we met wasn't memorable. We stared into each other's eyes, and yeah, Dave brought me into 98 FM. I don't know, maybe myself and Dave were going up to Grafton Street or something after he was finished, and we went or before the show, maybe, I don't know. But you were in the studio, and we came in, and I had a chat, and we were just yapping away. In between you doing your bits and pieces. It was way back.
That's probably nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember meeting Johnny Lyons that day as well, Lord
Wrestling.
Oh,
Johnny.
And the most manly man I've ever met. And yeah, just in his lumberjack shirt and his big deep voice.
He was such a legend, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just such a lovely guy, just such a warm guy, very open.
Yeah. He actually, the thing about Johnny was he always asked about the kids, how they were doing and everything like this, and he had a crocodile on his arm and just under his bicep. I can't remember which arm it was, and he'd always wear, like on a hot summer's day, he'd wear a vest and he'd be sitting at the sports desk tapping away as Johnny would. You'd know he was there because you hear him banging on the keyboard, and he'd be like, "Cooper, how's Max? Because I've named my tattoo crocodile after him." It's like, he's such a lovely heart. He's well missed, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's when we met first, and then I remember chatting to you then afterwards, and then you came into the studio then, and we had a bit of a laugh in the studio.
Yeah, you said to me, I want to photograph you because I think you're interesting looking.
I told you you're cool looking. You have a great face, and I'm still convinced that they modelled the old man from Up on you. His younger version.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm glad you said a younger version.
But yeah, you have a cool face, and it's just like, come on into the studio and we'll shoot your face just for
This
fun.
is so funny. Like, I'm talking to a photographer, and my tripod decides to give up and starts making its way towards me. Don't worry, I have another tripod on its way. Go on, Amazon. I'm just going to put some tape on the bottom there. So I have a cool face.
Yeah, you have an awesome face. And it was really good fun as well. It was actually one of the, it was one of those standout sessions in the studio that I remember, because it was just, like, we never stopped laughing from the time that you came in to the time you left. That happens. It happens a lot, but it doesn't happen to the level it did. There was just a lot of silliness, which was good crack.
It was good fun. So, because like your main business is headshot photography, isn't it?
Kind of. The headshots, the actual taking of photographs is probably around 5% of what I actually do, because I mix human behavioural science is what I do. So psychology, elements of psychology, anatomy, physiology, endocrinology, which is the study of hormones. Bit of cognitive behavioural therapy, and physiognomy, which is it's basically study of the structures of the face and the evolution of people's face, basically, and people's kind of head shapes. Well, not like phrenology, because I know that was poo-pooed years ago, but it's a look at how the muscles move and how the face itself is structured. And a lot of people use it, like the FBI, the CIA use it to profile people, and based on their preferences and their leanings, basically the way that they're kind of hardwired. But I use it because it helps me understand the person a little bit quicker. If I'm walking in and I need to know if they can absorb information quickly, because I'm going to fire loads of technical information at them. I need to know, basically, by looking at their forehead and the shape of their forehead, how they process information. So I just studied it because I met this guy named Joseph McGuire, who was really interesting, and that's what he does. He's a profiler, He's the top profiler in Ireland. He's a body language expert. You know, you see him on the telly all the time, and I got to meet him, and we had a lot in common. Two very, very different styles of business, because I was using what I was doing to teach people that they're better looking than they think they are, which is basically most of my business. If you read my tagline on LinkedIn, it says I travel the world teaching people to unconditionally love themselves and their faces. And so I could be working with anybody from craniofacial prosthesis patients to kids with cancer who are going back to school with no hair when they just finished their chemo, or I could be working with global directors of LinkedIn, or any of those kind of big companies, because I literally work with everybody, which is kind of fascinating. It's kind of good crack.
Yeah, no, and obviously, you have used science to understand your client and then get the best out of them. And for anybody, just check out John's portfolio. The photographs are absolutely stunning. They're incredible. What he's able to get out of a person is fantastic. The shots that you did of me, I'm just nobody's ever been able to recreate them. I give my kids the camera, they can't even do it, and they're super talented. But who's been your most favourite person you photographed?
Favourite person I photographed? I could say Stephen Cooper.
Stop.
That was Jesus, I don't know. That's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't think I was expecting that.
Things get fired at you on this thing.
I don't know. I've had so many faces, last year I photographed 5,500 people, and the year before was 7,000. I end up in the likes of LinkedIn, and I'll do a whole day and I'll work with hundreds of people. All right. I don't know. I have actually. I'm gonna hold up my laptop. He's on the wall up over me as well. There's Brian. This image here is the old dude with the fedora hat.
Oh, I love that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was taken. Every photographer will tell you they hate their work. They take photographs and then they look at it 2 or 3 months down the line and they're looking at it going, "Oh, there's problems with that," or "I see where I've improved since that image." That was taken the end of 2013, and I'd love to say that I'd love to look back at it and go, "Well, I've improved so much since then." What I've done has changed since then, but I think that image changed how I looked at people when I was taking their photographs, because
right.
I used to be terrified to photograph people, because every time I stuck a camera in somebody's face, they told me that they looked awful, ugly, old, they hated themselves, and I felt like I was failing at taking a photograph of them if they didn't like it. It was only later on, after I trained with Peter Hurley, that we had kind of big conversations around people not liking themselves in photographs, why they don't, and that's where I started to implement the science into it, to try and teach people to actually see themselves the way they see, everybody else sees them, rather than that either mirror view of themselves or the weird view of themselves that they see in photographs, where they're doing the sister-in-law smile and looking uncomfortable. And
what's the sister-in-law smile?
Okay, when you stand looking in the mirror, right, you believe you look like that, but you don't. You're the only person in the whole world who sees that image. Okay. So when you see a photograph of yourself, your brain wants to figure out why you don't look like the person in the mirror, because it's wrong. So you go to one thing on your face you don't like, and it's the same thing in every single photograph, and you blame that on making you feel uncomfortable. But it's not actually that eye difference or your nose or the double chins or any of those other bits and pieces that we all blame when we see photographs of ourselves. The actual thing that you see that's making you feel uncomfortable is the fact that when you're standing in front of the camera, your brain is saying to you, it's time to smile. Smile is mouth, move your mouth. And you go, and you do that. Every single politician's campaign posters are doing it. We do it in every single photograph, because we believe a smile starts with our mouth. But it doesn't. A genuine smile is hormone led, so it runs from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. So your whole body lifts, your posture lifts, you squeeze your lower eyelids to the outside of your cheeks, the corners of your mouth go up towards your ears. It's everything moves upwards and outwards, because that's where happiness lives. And we're releasing endorphins because we're moving those muscles in that way, and we feel happy. So if somebody smiles at you, you smile back at them, and if it's a genuine smile, you feel comfortable, and you feel elated because it's a nice smile, because the only way you're giving them back an appropriate facial expression is to feel it internally, because you can't see your own face. But if they give you that sister-in-law smile, you know, that smile girls give each other at a wedding when they realise both of them are wearing the same dress. You know, that's that,
or it's a scowl.
It's the bitchy smile, and it's only mouth, and it's just showing teeth. That's a fake smile, and when you see yourself doing that in photographs, cells in your brain called mirror receptors are telling you to look at that and understand why it's happening, and that person and copy what you see. So when it's an uncomfortable fake smile, you feel uncomfortable looking at it because the person in the photograph is uncomfortable, which is basically the science behind what I do in like half a second. But so basically you're reading that image, you're reading the eyebrows, the lower eyelids, the corners of the mouth, and the posture from the person who's in the image in a flash, like in fractions of a second, and you copy what you see. So even though you know it's you, your brain is still saying it doesn't look like me, so I'll look for something to tell me why I feel uncomfortable. You go to that one thing in your face that's always there because it's easy to blame that. And then you blame that and you make that the thing that's making you feel uncomfortable, as in you associate that one thing on your face with making you feel uncomfortable, but it's actually the fact that the person in the photograph is uncomfortable. It's like when you see a candid photograph of yourself, you like those candid photographs where you didn't know it was being taken. You know, you're at a wedding or a party and somebody takes a photograph and you're like, actually, I like that one.
Yeah.
And you don't go looking on your face for that one thing that you don't like because it doesn't exist in that image. You know, even though it might be there somewhere, you don't really go looking for it because you don't need to understand why that person is making you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I never knew it was so deep about like a smile to understanding of how you look when you look into the mirror, and then when you see a candid shot, some of my favourite photographs of me in nightclubs are when I don't know the photographer's there, and exactly. I'm like, oh, that looks cool, you know, and like you're not posing, you're not doing a silly kind of like DJ thing.
It's not posed. And that's the thing, is that it's not posed. And when it's posed, it's fake. And it's fake and you read it as fake and you want to know why the person feels uncomfortable or that person is doing that thing to you. Because, you know, we only got cameras 200 years ago. And we only got glass-based mirrors 180 years ago, which is another weird random fact. The mirror came after the camera. But for 90 million years we've had eyeballs and we've been able to see and we've been able to understand each other and communicate based on visual representations of what we understand. So everything we understand is based on shape. People are shapes, numbers are shapes, words are shapes, faces are shapes. That's why you can see a parking meter that has a face in it, or the front of a car can look angry because
oh my god, I see faces in everything.
Yeah, it's a
like
phenomenon.
Our cheese grater is a smile and I'm like, look at him, he's great.
That's a phenomenon called pareidolia, and it comes from a part of the brain just above your ears called the fusiform gyrus, and it's responsible for us understanding shapes. So basically when you see something like a parking meter or your car or your cheese grater, like not only do you see a face, you see an emotion in it as well. So it's either happy or it's sad or it's angry, and that's all based on the shapes. So basically it has eyebrows and it has lower eyelids and it has...
And what does that say about a person who has that and can't see? Because like,
we
I
all
look at
have it. You know,
okay,
we can all do it. You know, it's only that part of your brain sees those shapes, and like even emojis. Like we look at emojis, we know whether they're happy, sad, whether they're confused. You know, all of those bits and pieces, we understand that based on a series of shapes. They don't have to be an actual face for us to understand that, because that's
we could get into an emoji debate because there's the aubergine and what people think of it, but we're not going to go down that road.
That just means you're a vegan.
Before we wrap up this lockdown, all right, I want to ask you a couple of questions, all right? So for anybody who's watching this and you've been a professional photographer and all the different techniques that you use to get the best out of people, if somebody's taking, just say, a selfie at home and they want to make a new profile image for their TikTok or their Instagram or anything, or just put a nice picture up, is there any tips on what they should do with their face and how they should angle the camera?
Yeah, know your side is one of them. So
okay,
I'm going to do this all to the camera, so I'll get in nice and tight. So one of the big things is to first of all, don't do duck lips, because you wouldn't walk down the street like that.
I've seen many people walk down the street like that, close to your office. Yeah,
you can be walking, like you wouldn't stick your lips out like that on purpose walking down the street unless you're trying to pose for something, and it's really, really weird. Don't do it. It looks like a cat's arse, and that's the truth, and
somebody might stick a tea towel in it.
Yeah, like it's just weird. Don't do it. The other thing is obviously light. We were only talking about this earlier on, people on Zoom, especially now. Like a lot of people are on Zoom, and you're on Zoom calls with people, and they have a window behind them, and it's just completely dark. You know, they're completely shaded because everything in the garden is all being lit up. We look at the brightest thing in the room or the brightest thing around us. That's where you, as you're driving down a dark road and somebody's coming towards you with their full headlights on, even though you're supposed to turn away and look towards the corner of the windscreen on the far side, you still stare at the headlights because you're forced to stare at the brightest thing in the room. So the brightest thing in the room should be your face.
Okay.
The other thing is jawline as well, because especially with selfies, we tend to back away because our body's telling us to do so when we're uncomfortable, because we don't want to be having it. We don't want to have our photographs taken. So we all end up with loads of jaws and loads of chins. One of the things you can do is drive your head forward. I'm going to do it side on, and you can actually see the difference between my neck here and my jaw here. So if you drive your head forward, first of all, it's saying I'm paying attention to you and I want you to pay attention to me.
Okay, I'm going to try this.
Hijacks the person who's looking at you.
Oh yeah.
And makes them want to look and engage with you. And then if you tip your head very, very slightly forward as well, it makes sure that we can see your jawline. And the other thing is just smile. You know, get used to being in front of the camera and smile. Squeeze your lower eyelids, because that's one of the big things.
Don't squint though, right?
This is weird. Don't do this. That you wouldn't sit next to that on a bus. So if you squeeze your lower eyelids, it shows confidence, and then when a smile comes up with it, it shows approachability. So we smile with the outside of our cheeks first when we're happy and confident, and then the mouth follows it. So if you squeeze your lower eyelids, you're going to be releasing endorphins and you'll be forced to smile eventually. So camera should as well for selfies be at least eye level, if not tiny bit above. And that makes sure that we see your jawline as well, and we're not looking up your nose, because that's the dentist's view, and that's, you know, if anybody's got a 70-year-old mother who's using a mobile phone and she's talking to you on WhatsApp in video, you're guaranteed that the phone is down underneath her chin and you're looking straight up her nose. You know, you don't need that stuff. You know,
No.
that's not what we want to see. But just making sure that the light is behind the camera, or the light is between the camera and you, to light your face, is so important. And knowing your side as well. Everybody unconsciously has a side that they favour. Usually if people selfie a lot, they'll know it's their left or the right side, because it's the side that they put the camera up onto. Another great way to tell is the parting of your hair as well. So if your hair is parted over to the right, it means that you're left-sided, and it's also the side that you'll tip your head to, again, to welcome people into your space. So all those little bits and pieces make you, and it's easier to make people reflect and recognize you in those images. If you're not doing duck lips, you're not squeezing, holding your eyes
let's hope
open.
those tips are going to bring beautiful pictures now to Instagram.
It's going to change the world.
Thank you so much for coming on the lockdown. I hope you and your family stay safe, and we'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much to John. Check out all his links down below, and I want to see all your headshots looking amazing. Remember, neck out, shoulders up, sit up straight, jawline. I'll have to look at the instructions again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you share, subscribe, and stay safe.